Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Justin Ray Harvey here, and have I got a spectacular interview for you today on this Saturday evening. Today I will be interviewing via Skype, by video chat, live, the director of Kickboxer, also the head director of photography of Bloodsport, David Worth. Yes, the legendary David Worth via Skype here in just a few moments. Also, he worked with a couple of films with Clint Eastwood. He also did the film Honor. I mean, this guy's resume is completely awesome, and I gotta say, David is a wonderful person to know. I've been emailing him and talking with him for a very long time. So without further ado, let's video call Mr. David Worth. Let me make sure I got my volume to my liking, folks. So here we go. Hey, David.
Hey, Justin. How you doing, dude?
I'm doing good. How you doing, David?
Great. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, my friend. I gotta say, David, this, for me, this is a dream come true to actually see you live and be recording you and let you tell your thoughts and opinions and your story. This is truly a dream come true for me.
Well, I'm thrilled to be able to visit with you, Justin. You're a real cool dude. I'm so happy that you have checked out my work, know what I've done, and wanted to chat with me about it. I'm happy to share my experiences anytime with anyone, and I'm more than happy to share them with you.
Awesome, David. So since Bloodsport is my absolute favorite, why don't we start with Bloodsport, if you don't mind?
I don't mind at all. I noticed one of your is it your email address is Frank Dukes?
Yeah, frankdukesfan@gmail.com.
Yeah, so I know that you're a big fan of Bloodsport. Frank was there with us when we shot it. He's a great guy, and I'm so happy that that you and Frank are friends.
Oh, it's a dream come true. I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like having Christmas every morning, knowing Frank and being surrounded by, Bloodsport and Kickboxer, because I grew up on those films. So.
That's wonderful. And, you'd be surprised. I have many of my students and many people who meet me over the years. That's the one thing they say to me. Oh, when I was young, my dad and I used to watch Bloodsport, and one of my first films I saw that I remember is Kickboxer. So I'm happy to have that connection with the next generation. I'm kind of the older generation at this point.
Absolutely, and I have to say that both films are classics in my mind. I mean, anybody that's a martial artist, whether they like Frank or not, I guarantee you they've seen Kickboxer or Bloodsport or both.
Oh yes, no, everyone is, especially Bloodsport. I think Bloodsport even made because it was the first one that really had brought martial arts back since Enter the Dragon, and it was a huge hit, and everyone is really fixed on that film. And then they've also, they followed it up with Kickboxer. But I think I've had more people talk to me about Bloodsport even than Kickboxer. And what was unique about that film was Jean-Claude. I didn't know who Jean-Claude Van Damme was when I went to interview for doing that film. In fact, I was working, doing a very big second unit on a film called Inner Space, a big special effects movie at Warner Brothers. I was director of photography on the second unit on that film. Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan and a lot of people were in that movie. It was a big special effects movie. I think it won the Academy Award for special effects, in fact. It was produced by Steven Spielberg, etc. And I went in to interview for this little movie that was going to shoot in in Hong Kong. And I was very interested in that because my wife is Chinese from Singapore. So I hadn't worked in that part of the world. I was very anxious to go there. And I had no idea who Jean-Claude Van Damme was. But when the producer introduced me to the director was Newt Arnold. And Newt had been an assistant director to guys like Sam Peckinpah and William Friedkin, and so I fell in love with Newt and said, "Oh, I want to do this film just to work with Newt Arnold, who's worked with all of my hero directors."
Absolutely, and I'm actually gonna steal this from Frank because I've told you this before, but it's appropriate for this video. When I first lived my dream and met Frank and got to do a video interview with him, I did a 20-minute interview with him, and one of the things that really stuck out with me during the whole thing was he said that David Worth is a brilliant mind to work with. I mean, that's always stuck with me to this day.
That's very complimentary. I'm happy to hear that from Frank.
So I'll have to send you the video sometime through email or something.
Yeah, great, no problem.
So,
no, Frank, we're in touch. Frank and I found Frank on FaceTime, not on FaceTime, on Facebook, and contacted him and wished him all the best. It's been many years since Bloodsport, but I wished him all the best, and he told me about some things he was doing. So we haven't. I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook just because I just don't have the time. I'm busy teaching classes and traveling to San Francisco and writing classes for online and doing books and et cetera, et cetera. But when I do check it out, I try to check in with people I've worked with and say hi.
Oh, absolutely, folks. Because when I contacted David, I didn't expect you to respond so quickly, but you responded quickly. I
respond. I'm one of those persons that respond immediately to any email, any message that I get. Some people never even answer back to texts or to emails. They just, I don't know, it just kind of goes into the void. But I'm one of those people that if people have taken the time to send me something and would like a response, I'm more than happy to do it. And I've done it with students and with people who have contacted me from all corners of the world. Africa and South America and Europe and Asia who happen to cross either me on Facebook or my IMDb or something like that, or my website that has my email address, and contact me, and I respond right away. And if they want me to chat with them about any films, I'm more than happy to do it. I'm very accessible.
Okay, and I'd like to ask this, like with Bloodsport. Because I know that you was head of photography. Did everything go as planned as you wanted it to, or was you kind of, disappointed in some areas where this could have been better, or that could have been better? I mean, what was your biggest challenge with Bloodsport?
Well, the biggest challenge with it was, and by the way, I'm very satisfied with the photography of Bloodsport. I don't have any problems with it at all. I was extremely satisfied with everyone in the film, especially Mr. Van Damme, and how the film turned out, and of course it basically launched his career. But the biggest challenge was never having worked in Hong Kong, never having worked with an all-Chinese crew, and when I walked into the set, and the air-conditioned soundstage where the Kumite was, it was a four-wall, ceiling-in set with the mat in the center and with a balcony and with grandstands in it for people to sit around. It was a 360-degree room. That wasn't a regular soundstage where you can move walls and move things to facilitate your lighting. So I looked at that, and I said, there's only one way to light this, and I have to light it the way Stanley Kubrick would have lit it. I studied Stanley Kubrick's work before I even did Bronco Billy with Clint Eastwood, and I discovered that Stanley Kubrick builds all of his lighting into his sets or locations so that he never has to break up the actor's concentration when they're on a roll. He can just keep shooting without having to change lights. Mm-hmm. So I adapted that way. Once I realized that's what he was doing, I adapted that way as my way of working. I even wrote an article in the American Cinematographer magazine that was entitled, "If It's Good Enough for Mr. Kubrick, ... Why aren't more of us doing that?" Mm-hmm. So I had used it successfully on Bronco Billy, and I walked in and I saw that huge four-walled, ceilinged and floored set that was on a big soundstage in Hong Kong, and I knew I had to figure a way to build all my lighting into the set. So fortunately, the ceiling had beams in it. And I was able to tell my gaffer, 1K, 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 1K. I was able to place enough lights on the beams in the ceiling to make them look like normal lights that would be at a theatrical event. I didn't put any barn doors or filters or anything like that on them. Mm-hmm. And we focused some on the mat, some on the crowd, and some on the Kumite officials that were at the stand in front of the mat, and one on the scoreboard. And then we placed 150-watt bulbs all the way around on both the balcony level, the walls on the floor level, so we'd have a little bit of, we could see what was kind of in the background, have a little distance. And basically, that was it. The set was lit. Wow. I lit it specifically, and I'm going to be a little technical here, Justin, for the photographers who are out there. I lit it to an f4. So that meant that because I knew I was going to be shooting slow motion at 48 frames and 96 frames. Some of the highlights we would shoot in slow motion at 48 frames. Some of the highlights we'd shoot in slow motion at 96 frames. And I knew that I needed to have an f4 everywhere in that ring. So whenever Newt Arnold said, "All right, we're going to shoot at 48 frames," I would open up a stop to a 2.8. If he said, "We're going to shoot at 96 frames," I'd open up two stops to a 2.2 or a 2.4. And my set was ready. It was completely lit, and they could bring fights in all day long, and we would cover them with 3 Panavision cameras, and we just shot the heck out of those scenes.
Wow, yeah. And one thing that I've always wanted to know, because I think Frank had told me some stuff from the film had got cut that he wanted to keep in there, or he wanted some more fights that was cut or something in the film. Because me and Frank actually watched the film together, actually. Good. So.
Well, you know, when you shoot a film, Justin, you shoot a lot more than you need. And on this particular film, on Bloodsport, Newt Arnold, it was the first film he had worked on as a director. He'd been an assistant director, as I said, for really big guys like William Friedkin and Sam Peckinpah. But this was his first film as a director. He was very prepared. He had all kinds of notes and drawings, and he overcovered it. We shot 3 cameras, 3 Panavision cameras on every fight scene. And we covered every fight from like 6 different angles. We would shoot 3 cameras from wide angles, like shooting through the crowd or from behind the officials. And then 1 camera would always be on a dolly or on a crane, going up and down, looking at the ring or dollying around the ring. Then we'd come in closer, and 2 of the cameras were always concentrating on each of the fighters and following them everywhere on the mat. Then I would take the camera handheld and get onto the mat and shoot certain portions of the fight handheld. Then we would shoot the highlight kick or knockout in 48 frames or 96 frames slow motion. So we shot almost 240,000 feet of film on that whole film, and we shot a lot of fights. And by the time the film is going to only end up being 10,000 feet long, to an hour and a half movie. So by the time you do the editing process, there are things that are going to be eliminated. And that's just part of, it happens with every film, and that's part of getting down the film to the right length for the distributor, because every distributor says you will deliver a film between 90 and 100 minutes. They give you a mark to hit. And so I'm sure in hitting that mark, there were some choice scenes and choice fights and choice kicks and punches that had to be eliminated.
Absolutely, and what I would really love to see for old and new generation that love Bloodsport.
It's 2 o'clock.
As you know, they just had the 25th anniversary of Bloodsport. I would love to see like a re-release where it would have you doing commentary about the film or something. You know, some extra features. You know?
Well, I would love to, but I might be kind of down on the pecking order of people to make comments. They probably would go to Mr. Van Damme before they would come to me to make comments. But I'd be more than happy to do it. Unfortunately, Newt Arnold, the director, has passed away. But I would love to see that. I'd love to see them include any of the outtakes and photos and behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff. I would be more than happy to do it. I was director of photography on a film that became a cult film called Poor Pretty Eddie, with Shelley Winters and Leslie Uggams and Slim Pickens and Dub Taylor and Ted Cassidy. And the young star was Michael Christian, who was on the original Peyton Place. And it never did anything when we released it back in the 1970s, but eventually it became a cult favorite. And they did a re-release of it a couple of years ago, and they called me and they had me sit with it and do a scene-by-scene commentary on that film. So I'm more than happy to do it for any of my old lost films.
Oh, absolutely. And my final question, so that we can move on to Kickboxer, because I could talk about Bloodsport all day. I mean, but we can concentrate on Bloodsport all you'd like, Justin. Even if after we talk about Kickboxer, we can come back to Bloodsport. Okay. Well, one of my questions is for my fans too is like, Forrest Whitaker was awesome in that film. But what was funny about it, and I want to know how this came up, this funny idea where, you know, he speaks, you know, and then he gets interrupted through the whole film except at the very end. It's hilarious.
Yes. Well, my memory is lapsing on the actor he played opposite, the other detective. I can't quite remember his name. He's a great character actor.
Yes.
But Forrest and he worked that out. They had normal lines written in the script. And Forrest and he, on their own, worked out that would be their little M.O. Every time something would happen, Forrest would start talking, and then he would come in, the other guy would come in and interrupt and finish it off. And that made them stand out and be unique in the film because really, I mean, the film is about martial arts and Jean-Claude Van Damme and fights and all that. And they found a way to make their performance memorable. And what I loved about it was having Forrest in the film, because before our film came out, I then saw him in Color of Money with Paul Newman, upstaging Paul Newman in a scene. And when we had the premiere, I went to him and I said, "Forrest, my God, you're such a great actor. We're honored to have had you in our little martial arts film. I just saw Color of Money, and you've got a big career. Anyone who could upstage Paul Newman is pretty amazing actor." And I said, "You've got a career ahead of you." And of course, he won the Academy Award, and it's still going on. He's a great director, actor, etc. He was just in the film The Butler, which I haven't seen yet.
It looks like it's going to be a good film. I've seen the previews of that. So.
Yeah, he's a we just were at the right place at the right time, and he was at the beginning of his career, and he came to Hong Kong and did a little martial arts film. And I always smile every time I see him there because he's the one who had the smallest part in the film, and he's the one who went the furthest of all of us.
Yeah, exactly, because he doesn't get a full line until after the film is completely almost over at the very end.
That's right.
It's hilarious. And but before I move to Kickboxer, one thing that just popped into my mind: walk us through that video game scene where Frank is meeting Ray Jackson for the first time. Can you walk us through that scene?
There was we shot all the two shot and the close-ups of Ray and of Jean-Claude playing the game, pretending to play the game.
Yeah.
We didn't have the game even when we were shooting. They added that game. They shot all the footage for the game and added that in post-production.
Wow, because
or we may have even shot it when we were at some point in Hong Kong. They may have brought it to me, and we may have shot it on set. I can't quite recall, but I know it was a completely separate item, and they had to react. They had to pretend to react to what the game was going to be doing, and then we had to make the game do it and shoot it and put it all together in the editing.
That had to be really tough if you think about it, to do that.
Yeah, but that's what acting is about. Acting, especially even today, with all the green screen and superhero and mega monster things they're doing, they don't have those things for the actors to react to. They have a stick with a green tennis ball on it that they're holding up out of frame, and they're having the actors look at the right spot, and then later they're going to put the monster or the dragon in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, absolutely, and let's go ahead and
one thing more. Okay. I want to mention about Bloodsport.
Okay.
That all the women, that's the main thing that Bloodsport did. That's the main thing that Jean-Claude Van Damme did for martial arts. The last star we had before Jean-Claude was, of course, the great Bruce Lee, and then that ended, and then martial arts kind of went away, and Jean-Claude came back onto the scene with Bloodsport, and because he had ballet training and could do the splits, and because he was cute and very handsome, because he had a great body, and because he had a French accent, he brought something to Bloodsport and to martial arts that no one had ever been able to bring. He brought women to the audience.
Yeah, and
he was able to bring women to the audience. The women didn't care about martial arts. It was a guy's thing to go see martial arts movies and kung fu movies. But because of his charm and his accent and his looks, he was able to bring women to our audience, which expanded it a lot. And you have no idea how many women stopped me when they found out I did Bloodsport and said that they remember the scene where he showed his butt.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very famous scene, actually.
The love scene the next morning, where he's getting up and getting dressed after he's had the scene with the journalist, and we were rolling the camera, and he had his pants already up, and he just quickly pulled them down and pulled them back up, and he almost improvised it. I just smiled to myself. We shot it, and that ended up being the thing that the female audience hooked on, and
they're crazy about that scene.
Said, "Oh my God!" When we saw that scene, that was just fantastic. So that's the amazing thing that Mr. Van Damme brought to martial arts with the women. Excuse me, I need a drink of water.
That's okay, because I've got my coffee here. So yeah, it's
okay. Kickboxer.
Yes, let's move on to Kickboxer, because not only is Kickboxer a great film, but you were the director of Kickboxer.
Yes.
So,
and
how did that all come about? And because a lot of people say that it's similar to Bloodsport, that it could have, got the idea from Bloodsport. Walk me through this.
Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold, Justin. Rephrase that question so you don't have to leave me
okay.
blowing my nose in the video. You can edit it out. I just had a cold last week, and I'm just on the last end of it. Excuse me. Go ahead.
That could be a blooper reel.
Okay, on the beat reel.
Yeah. But my question is, David, how did Kickboxer, come about? Because I get into a lot of debates with people online that say that it's basically Bloodsport.
Except with a love story.
Yeah.
And different characters, and only one bad guy instead of a lot of bad guys. Etc. Instead of Bolo, it's Tong Po. So
yeah, which is Michelle Kesey. And,
yeah.
I read somewhere it took them
an
hour.
Michelle. Michelle was in Bloodsport. Did you know that?
Yeah, yes, he's the one that gets his knee broken.
That's right.
Yes.
And then he shaved his head, or we put a thing on him for kickboxer, and he became a whole different character.
Yeah, and they said that it took them an hour to make him look like that with the adjustments that they had to make. So. Well,
here's how it came about. The producer had, when we were shooting on location, when we were shooting Bloodsport, I kept saying to the producer, I want to direct the next one. Mm-hmm. And he saw how well I got on with the crew, how I ran the crew, how I pre-lit the sets, how efficient the production was run. And by the way, when we were shooting Bloodsport, the Kumite sequences, because I had the set pre-lit and because I had 3 cameras, we were able to average 70 setups a day.
Wow.
And I had a high one day of 93. This is one of the most efficient films ever made, trust me on that. And the producer saw that, and then when we'd finished and he was preparing Kickboxer, he brought me in and said, all right, prove to me how much you want to direct this next film, and come in and help out during pre-production for no money. Just show me, roll up your sleeves and get involved. And I did that for 6 months. I polished the script. I worked on the advertising campaign. We didn't think we were going to get Jean-Claude Van Damme back. We even ran casting sessions in case we didn't get Jean-Claude back. I did all my storyboards for the film, and basically proved to him that I was the guy to direct the film. And eventually he signed me to direct it. And when there was a center page ad in Variety, that beautiful red thing of Jean-Claude with the kick, and it said, you know, Kings Road Entertainment is announcing a film produced by Mark DeSalle, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme, directed by David Worth, blah, blah, blah. And that was how we did it.
Wow, that's just amazing, David. And the shooting was in Thailand, correct?
The shooting was no. The shooting was in we placed the film in Thailand. Yes, we went to Thailand 3 different times in pre-production. Before, I wasn't the director of photography on that show. We had another gentleman doing it because I was directing. But I shot all the stuff in pre-production. We took the cameras and went to Thailand to scout locations 3 different times, and I shot all of the stuff, all of the locations of the temple and the city and the exteriors, and all the stuff with the boats that we used for the main title sequence. I shot all of that material in pre-production while we were scouting Thailand, because we actually built the Thai village and a lot of the film in Hong Kong. Hong Kong was where Sloan Films was, and that was our center for shooting all of Bloodsport, and then 75% of Kickboxer, but we had placed it as happening in Thailand because of all the second unit footage that I shot in pre-production around Thailand.
I see, and one of my favorite scenes from the film was when he was kicking the palm tree. That is one of my favorite scenes. That
was shot in Hong Kong. That's one of our favorite scenes too, because it's a very emotional scene. Because Jean-Claude and David Chow, his trainer, have a clashing of heads, and the trainer says, "Oh, you don't want training, okay?" And then Jean-Claude proves to him how much he wants it. Of course, we had a big pad on the other side of the tree where you couldn't see it, where Jean-Claude could safely kick the tree, and we had the tree wired, so at a certain point we could pull it down and give the impression that he was doing it, breaking it with his leg. And then Jean-Claude brought all of his emotion to it and played the pain and the girl coming to help him and all that. But it was a very, very good scene, a very well done scene that required a lot of things to be correct and safe. We couldn't do anything to endanger Mr. Van Dam, so the tree was padded and the tree was wired to work mechanically and follow the arc of the story of him being able to kick that tree down and impress his master.
And I gotta say, David, the guy that played, I can't think of his real name because Kickboxer's the only film I've seen him in. The guy that played Winston Taylor, that part was just genius.
Haskell Vaughn Anderson III.
That was just genius. I mean, the way you had him do his parts and his role in Kickboxer, it was great.
Haskell Vaughn Anderson III, a great actor. He does a lot of theater now. And even 25 years down the road, a great actor, a great man.
Wow! And one of the questions I wanted to ask David is, where did you get the idea for the hands wrapped in glass, thing for the fight?
This was in the script. This was in the script. And John Claude and the producer really did the script together. There was the other writer. I don't have all of those technical credits at my disposal.
Oh, that's fine. I'm just trying to. Yeah.
But that was in the script, and so we showed the scene again of them breaking the real glass into the containers. Then we changed containers and we put chipped pieces of plastic in there, and then we showed them putting the glue on their gloves and pushing their hands down in and coming up with the glass on them. Yeah, it was a very, very squeamish scene. You know when people are putting glass on their fists, you don't want to see the result.
Yeah, well, I actually enjoyed that fight scene. Actually, it was very well put together, and I wanted to mention to the audience, and I wanted to get your opinion on this too, David. There is actually a scene from the movie that I found on YouTube. There was a scene that was cut from the U.S. release where David Sloan visits Eric in the hospital, and it's a very emotional scene. Yeah. And to this day, David, I'm like, why did they not keep that in there? Because that is such a great scene.
No, I agree. Again, that was one of those things that the American distributor had agreed on a certain amount of time, and they probably had to make a time limit, and they said, we got to cut 2 more minutes, or 2.5 more minutes, or 3 more minutes out of the film. What are we going to take? And that became the thing. They said, well, it's not action, so we'll take that. And we've seen John Claude's emotion, of course, when he cries when he finds out about his brother's back and this and that. So I'm sure that that just got cut by a process of elimination. But I remember shooting the scene. I remember it was a very good scene, and John Claude was always in top form. In every scene, he was prepared and ready, both physically and emotionally, to do the part.
And how long did it take to finish filming and making sure everything was good to go?
Well, here's what I was able to bring to the table. Mm-hmm. As the director of Kickboxer, as opposed to Bloodsport. As I told you on Bloodsport, we shot almost 250,000 feet of film. And we shot for 8 weeks only in Hong Kong to get the material for the film. I was able to streamline the production because of my experience as a director of photography, and an editor. I was able to streamline Kickboxer, so I only shot 125,000 feet of film on Kickboxer, and I shot it in 2 countries, and I shot it in 6 weeks.
Wow.
In 36 days, even though we went to Thailand and Hong Kong.
That would seem tedious to me, David, to do that.
Yeah, I was able to streamline it, to shoot less film, to concentrate more on the story, and to get the same to get the same production value, but not overcovering it, not doing. I just thought that the first film had been overcovered, that's always the director's choice. That was Newt's choice, and my choice was to be just a little more streamlined. But we shot it in 6 weeks.
I gotta be honest with you, David. If there was any chance in the world that there was ever a film made about my life, which I highly doubt that would ever happen, I think if I could choose my director, I would want you to direct.
Well, I thank you very much. I would be honored. It would be an honor to do a film about you, because you, young man, are a hero to me. Trust me.
Because, like I said, Bloodsport and Kickboxer are just movies to people, but to me, they have made me the strong person I am today.
Excellent.
So, because, I mean, I've had many surgeries, and when I was born, David, I wasn't expect to live, or even, I'm going to share this story with you, just, because I've never had the opportunity to share this story with you. They even told my mother when I was born, they said, just stick him in an institution and call it a day. He's not going to be able to feed himself. He's not going to be able to talk. He's not going to be able to do nothing.
Wow. Let me tell you something. You fooled them all, didn't you, Justin?
Yes, I did.
No, and this is wonderful. This is a wonderful story. And you hear these stories a lot of times with athletes who have backs broken and legs broken, and they say, well, you'll never walk again, you'll never run again, you'll never jump again. And that shows you that it's not the physical part of us that keeps us going. It's the emotional and spiritual and mental part of us that drives us, and we can will things to happen with our spirit that people who just look at us physically would say, well, he's not going to be able to do anything. That's it. And your will and your mind and your spirit made it happen. And that's what Bloodsport and Kickboxer are really about. They're about that kind of dominance of the human will and the human spirit. So I'm so happy that those films were able to speak to you and to help you become the wonderful, articulate, brilliant television star that you are.
Yeah, because when little kids was running and playing or doing something that I couldn't do, I mean, absolutely, physically couldn't do, I was sitting here watching Kickboxer and Bloodsport back to back, and I can really, in some degree, even though Kickboxer's not a real story, I can relate to the characters in the film.
Right.
So.
Well, that's what all filmmaking is about. It's about suspending your disbelief and believing this little fantasy about A, B, and C. That's what people have loved about the movies since they first began going and seeing Mary Pickford and Charlie Chaplin back in the old silent days. It was maybe only 10 or 15 or 20 minutes, but it made them laugh, it made them cry, it made them forget about their ordinary life. And all over the world, people flock to the movies for that reason, because it gives them something that is bigger than life. And the best movies give them something for their mind and their body and their spirit. And I was pleased I'm very, very honored that our humble little small martial arts films were able to do that.
Oh, absolutely, because my brother would come over to my house a lot, and it didn't matter if I watched Bloodsport 100 times a day. He would always sit down with me and watch the film.
That's wonderful.
So,
I bet you know it better than I do.
I want to quote something that Frank actually said himself, which I wish I would have had this on camera to, substantiate this, but Frank actually said, you know more about Bloodsport than I do.
Yeah, and you know more about Bloodsport than I do. Trust me, because I've maybe seen it. I saw it, of course, in the filming of it, in the making of it, all day, every day for 8 weeks. Then I came in and saw various edited versions of it. I saw the premiere of it, and I've watched it, I'd say probably at least a dozen times, because for years there, it was on every week. It was on some channel I'd be turning by, and there it would be, and I'd sit and I'd be enthralled. I'd say, oh, I remember that. That was a great day, and this. And I always go back to the time of the shooting. I enjoy watching it because of that. But you, believe me, have surpassed all of the screenings of Bloodsport that even the makers of the film and even the guy who lived the film, Mr. Dukes, had. You are the champ when it comes to the screenings of Bloodsport.
So you can really understand how much this video interview really means to me, because it's like a dream come true for me to be talking to you live, you know.
Well, I'm happy to do it, Justin. You have my email, you have my cell phone number, you have my Skype, you have my iChat number. You're welcome to contact me anytime just to say hi. I'm not always here. Sometimes I'm traveling, but you can reach me. You can always email me or always cell phone me. I'm happy to say hi and chat with you. You're my buddy as far as I'm concerned.
I appreciate that, David, and I gotta say, you have inspired me to try to do something, which I don't know how I'm going to go about it yet. I just got to get this out, though. I actually want to try acting, even if it's just a small part in any type of film or play. Even you've inspired me to to try that.
Excellent. So. And you know, with the advent of high definition cameras, small HD cameras, this is an HD camera. Mm-hmm. It's on your cell phone. Mm-hmm. And you can have your friends come over and you can record sound on it and video on it, and you even has editing programs on it, or you have it on your iPad. This is what I tell all of my students. I say nowadays it's much easier to make films than it was back in my day, when you had to have film and processing and printing and coding, and it would take us months to do what people with a high-def camera and a little nonlinear editing system can do on a weekend. You can have your friends come over with their cell phones or with their DSLRs, their little high-def cameras that look like still cameras, and do little projects with you. Absolutely, do it.
Absolutely, and I gotta say, David, I would love to see a documentary done on you. Actually, I would sit down and watch that for hours.
Well, listen, I'm not sure that I have enough gravitas to deserve a documentary. I'm kind of what I call a journeyman filmmaker. I made some very good films. I did 2 films with Clint Eastwood, as you know, as his director of photography, Bronco Billy and Any Which Way You Can, which I'm very proud of. I'm extremely proud of being the director of photography on Bloodsport and the director of Kickboxer, which launched Mr. Van Damme's career. Mm-hmm. And I went on to do a lot of other films that are not quite that great, but I've worked with Shelley Winters. I worked with Roy Scheider and with Dennis Hopper and with the great Bruce Campbell, who did those wonderful horror films. Mm-hmm. So I've made my way. I've managed to eke out a career on not making all big films or all important films, but having enough of a career to support my family and help my son and my wife go through college. And now, when the phone stops ringing, and when you get to be a certain age in this business, the phone stops ringing, and they say, instead of here's the cycle of how your life goes in filmmaking. Mm-hmm. They say, who's Jean-Claude Van Damme? Then they say, oh, get me Jean-Claude Van Damme. Then they say, get me a young Jean-Claude Van Damme. Mm-hmm. Then they say, get me the next Jean-Claude Van Damme. Then they say, who's Jean-Claude Van Damme? That's the cycle of how your life goes in entertainment. And I don't have I certainly am not as famous as Mr. Van Damme or the stars of many movies, but I've had a wonderful, exciting career. I've been thrilled because I've been able to travel. I've made films in Hollywood, mm-hmm. and I've traveled to Hong Kong, Bangkok, Macau, Indonesia, Italy, Israel, South America, South Africa, Bulgaria, Romania, making movies, making American movies with American stars all over the world, and using all indigenous crews, usually using the crews that were there in those countries, and it was a wonderful, learning, challenging experience, and for much of it, I was able to bring my wife, who's Chinese from Singapore, and our young son. When he was 18 months old, he was on location with us doing kickboxer.
Wow.
And so he got not only, and because we traveled so much, my wife homeschooled our son, and he not only got a great one-on-one education, he also got an education seeing the world. He got a world view of seeing the different countries, Hong Kong, Bangkok, Macau, Indonesia, Israel, Italy, and hearing the languages and tasting the food and going to the religious services. And so I'm very happy about how my life turned out and the cards that I was dealt as far as my career, because it enabled me to see a lot of the world and experience a lot of different crews and realize how much we are all alike, and we all are the same. We all are human, even though we speak different languages, we have different religions, we may have different skin colors or national origins, whatever it is. But down on the basics, we're all human. And as John Fitzgerald, as JFK said, and I'm going to quote him because yesterday was the 50th anniversary of his assassination, as he said, we all inhabit the same small planet.
Wow.
We all cherish our children's future. We're all mortal. And so he was doing his best back in those days, even to say, even though we have trouble with the Russians and with the Chinese, etc., we're all human. We all breathe the same air. We all inhabit the same small planet. We all cherish our children's future, and we're all mortal.
And we all have the same color blood, too. We all have the same blood, too.
That's right. And being able to see that really in my life experience and in my son and my wife's life experience, being able to live through that by traveling and making these little films all over the world, I was very honored that happened.
Have you ever been to West Virginia or somewhere small like that? Because that's where I'm from.
I've been close because my family home is now in Baltimore, Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm on the West Coast, I'm in Los Angeles because I have teaching assignments out here. But the family home is in Baltimore, is in a suburb of Baltimore. And I know my son went to Virginia, and I think we have some relatives in Virginia. I know it's right next door.
Okay, because if possible, David, I'm just saying this as a scenario, but if possible, I would love to meet you and take photos and sit down and talk with you.
Well, we'll try to make that happen at some point in our lives.
So I'm gonna make that a goal, ladies and gentlemen, to meet David Worth. So.
Well, you've met me and chatted with me. Sometimes, this is sometimes more intimate than really being able to meet. When my wife is the one who introduced me to Skype. I taught for a year in Singapore, so I was away from my family for an entire year, teaching at Chapman University's new facility in Singapore, and she's the one who introduced me to Skype. And every day we could talk on Skype. And even my little Chihuahua puppy would come and listen to me. I'd call her up to the camera, and I'd say, "Give mommy left hand." She'd raise her, "Give mommy right hand," and get a treat. And then Mimi would give her a treat. And so I could interact with my family, with my son, with my grandchildren, with my pets. And I said, that really takes the sting out of having to be away from your family. I've had to be away sometimes when I was on location for 6 months, and it was too expensive to call. But Skype is wonderful. You can call and talk for hours and have that one-on-one conversation with your family and your pets and all those things. And it really is. I just found it to be. It saved my life for the year I had to be away in Singapore.
And it really helps me, David, because I don't get to travel a lot, and it's you know, I can basically travel on my computer, go to different locations, see different things. And
you can go everywhere in the world. That's the base. That's the great thing about the information superhighway. I did a project with my grad students at UCLA. I got together a project to do a little horror film, and I wrote the script with one of my students who was in Salt Lake City, and we just passed the script back and forth that way. So you can do anything now. Really, on the internet, you can make movies, you can write scripts, you can have interviews, you can have friendships, you can talk to your family. That's the beautiful thing about it, and I'm so happy that you have that at your disposal.
Absolutely, David, and I gotta share a quick story with you, because it's just amazing, because that's one of the reasons I got the internet, because like MySpace was a big hit when I got the internet, and I was determined to find Frank Dukes, and it took me several, it actually took a year to find him, because there was like 100 and some fake profiles on there, but I found him on MySpace, and that's sort of how we connected. So
look at what that proves my point. Look what you were able to do, sitting in your room on your computer. You were able to find one of the great heroes of your life, the man who Bloodsport was based on, by sitting at your computer. Yes, it took some time, but you found it. You found the answers.
And I did the same thing with you, David, because, you know, I wanted to find people that were involved with Bloodsport and Kickboxer, you know.
Well, I'm so happy that you did, because it's enriched my life to know you and to talk with you and to hear your story.
So, and before I let you go, David, I want to ask you about Honor. Tell me a little bit about Honor, because I know you worked on that film.
Yeah, Honor was in like 2005. I'd heard so much about this new high def HD, and I wanted so much to try it out, and I had not. I knew that it was the wave of the future. In fact, I knew it was the wave of the future back in the 1990s as soon as nonlinear editing came in. I could see the handwriting on the wall of technology really speeding up and streamlining the filmmaking process. And I knew that something was going to come and replace film. And so when high def came around, someone offered me a very small film to do just prior to Honor, called House at the End of the Drive. It was a little horror movie. It's a very small horror movie, done for like $250,000, one of the smallest films I've ever worked on. And I jumped at the chance to do it because we were going to do it on high def, and I wanted to see what high def could do. Because I'd shot nothing but 16 millimeter and mostly 35 millimeter feature films all of my life. All of my professional work was big 35 millimeter film cameras. So I had these two little Sony 900 cameras with zoom lenses on them, and I decided to push it to the limits on this little horror film before I did Honor. And the first thing that I discovered that made me fall in love with high def was, you know what happens every 10 minutes on a movie set? You run out of film. 1,000-foot magazine. And you have to say, okay, changing a mag. And the actors break their concentration, they have a cigarette, they get a drink, they call their girlfriends, they make dinner plans, and they get out of the mood of the scene. And you have to it takes time to get them back into that mood.
Back in the groove of the scene to make it realistic.
Yes, they lose their concentration. So the first thing I discovered with high def was that I had 50 minutes of tape. This is back in the old days when they have tape. Now you have hours because you have memory chips. You just put a memory chip in and you can go for hours. But this was in the mid 2000s, and all they had were high def tapes that we would then convert into our systems. But I had 50 minutes. So if I'm doing a 4 or 5 minute scene with the actors with my two cameras, at the end of the scene when I'd say, okay, fine, don't cut the cameras. Actors, take a deep breath. Go back to the beginning of the scene. Camera operators, zoom in now and get me tighter coverage. Ready? Everyone take a, we're going to shoot close-ups now. Everyone take a deep breath and action. And I found I could keep going. I could keep going, keeping the actors in the mood and getting much more coverage and much more work done. And here's what I discovered at the end of that movie. I could get 3 times the material for the editing room. On Bloodsport, I had 100,000 feet. That's about 18 hours of film for the editing room. On Kickboxer, I had a little over 100,000 feet of film. That's 20 hours of film for the editing room. And it took me 36 days to shoot it. I shot this little horror film in 12 days. And I got 50 hours of film for the editing room. So I got 3 times the material for the editing room in half the production time and at 1/10 of the cost of shooting on film. Then I was offered, as soon as I was finished with that film, I was offered honor, and I said I'd love to do it, and they were going to do it on 35 millimeter. And I took the producers aside and I sat them down, and I said I'm an expert on martial arts. And on martial arts, we always shoot 3 cameras. We have to really cover each actor and masters and the crowd and everything. And if you're going to shoot 35 millimeter film, and this is a very small film, you want to do it in 18 days, you're going to spend a lot of money on film.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, you should consider shooting this in high def. And I related my experience with high def and what I discovered about high def. And they let it gestate for a couple of days, and then they went out and they bought 3 new high-def cameras. And we shot that whole film also on high-def, and I was able to complete that in 16 days, pre-lit all my sets, as I always do, and I had a great time doing the project. I got to work with one of my wrestling heroes, Roddy Piper.
I was about to say I'm a big wrestling fan, and I've actually competed in a wrestling ring and won the championship and never been defeated. So
congratulations, young man. Yeah, no, I worked with, I had done a film with Hulk Hogan, and I did a little film that's not even on my resume. It was like a very forgettable little film. Hulk Hogan was in it. And the guy who was tagging around, helping Hulk Hogan, was there like of his gopher, his helper. And sometimes I'd laying on the ground shooting a shot with a 35 millimeter camera, and he'd reach down with one finger and lift me up at the end of the shot. Was a guy named Paul White. He became the Big Show.
Yeah, Big Show, yes, yeah.
He became the Big Show, and I knew him when he was Hulk Hogan's assistant on this little film we made in Tampa Bay, Florida. And so I follow that because I love watching those guys' careers, and I always adored Roddy Piper. And the first time I met Roddy, I called him on the phone to introduce myself as the director, and I said to him, Roddy, I'm here to do 2 things, kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of bubble gum. And he laughed and laughed because that's his line from Them, from the movie Them, that he was in with about the aliens, and we were great friends ever since. But it was a great little film, and it was done in only 16 days, shot on high def. And I was very proud of the result.
Wow, because I was going to ask you if Roddy Piper was a good guy, because I was going to ask you that. So.
Very good guy. The only thing I had to do with Roddy, and you have to do it with any time you work with wrestlers, and I tell wrestlers every time I meet them, I've met a lot of them, I tell them, you guys are the last great theatrical actors that we have, because they're acting to 16,000 people every night, playing their role and selling their parts, and the only thing you have to do when you work with wrestlers is this. Less. Bring it down, because the camera's right in here now. You're not playing to 16,000 people, you're just playing to one individual in the audience, and we can see the emotion in your eyes. You just have to tell them to bring it down, because they're all terrific actors, because they're acting every night of their life, playing their parts in stadiums around the world.
Yeah, I mean, because they're always on the road every week, all year long. I mean, because that's just how Vince McMahon works. So.
And it's all acting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're great. As far as I'm concerned, they're great theatrical actors, and they're all very, very good. They know how to play emotions, and all you have to do is bring it down for the camera, make it smaller, and show it in your eyes. And Roddy was very good at that.
Oh, absolutely, David. And one of my final comments before I let you go, because I don't want to keep you too long, because I know you have a busy schedule, my friend. Did you know that they're talking about doing a remake on Kickboxer
and Bloodsport? Yeah, both of those remakes are in the works. I know that, but they're not. They're going to use as far as I know, they're going to use the name only. They're not going to do the same story. They're going to do a bigger, different version using the name.
Okay, because to my understanding, they couldn't do a remake without Frank's character, but they could use the name, the title, Bloodsport.
Yeah, I think that's what they've done. I think, down through the years, I think that title has become a separate from Frank's name, and they could sell the title and use the title and have nothing to do with Frank Dukes and have nothing to do with that original story, and use the and do some big CGI thing like they like to do in Hollywood and redo. Well, I've heard that both Bloodsport and Kickboxer are facing that.
Yeah, because I do have to comment, David. I did see all the sequels of Bloodsport, and I got to tell you, for a big fan of Bloodsport, I was very disappointed because they didn't continue with the story of Frank Dukes, and the fight scenes wasn't as good as your photography work was on Bloodsport. So I was very highly disappointed.
Well, don't watch all the sequels of Kickboxer either. Then
I've seen them all, and I was very disappointed. That's why I said that I'm not able to send that DVD right now, because I do not have an individual copy for you to sign. It was a box set that my brother had bought me years ago.
I know, that's fine, and if you, I'm happy to sign your box set, whatever you'd like. No, and that's usually the problem. It's very seldom. There's a few times where the sequels have been better. I think that the guy who knows how to do sequels is James Cameron. When he did Aliens, I love the first Alien. But he took Aliens and took it and made it Alien Square and stepped it up as far as the action and the adventure and all that. I thought he did a great job on that. And of course, Godfather 2 was a big step up from Godfather 1. There have been a few times where the sequels have become better than the original, but usually They don't do that, unfortunately, and they should. They should spend more money on the sequel. A lot of times they say, "Oh, we have a built-in audience, so we don't have to spend as much money. We can cheapen it down," and that's unfortunately what happened with Bloodsport and Kickboxer.
Yeah, because like I said, David, I was very disappointed with the sequels, because I'm a big Kickboxer and Bloodsport fan, and I even like how you would even show the blood in the scenes during the fights, and I would compare, the fight scenes back to back. I would go to Bloodsport 2 and then Bloodsport 1, and then be like, Bloodsport 1 is so much better with the fight scenes. So.
Yeah. Well, you get what you pay for, unfortunately, and usually when you're doing small films, these were small films, and so the people who did the sequels kind of shaved the budgets down and tried to use the name title and not do as good of a production as was done with the originals.
Oh, absolutely, David. And before I let you go, one last thing that I want to talk to you about, which I'm not very familiar with, so I thought I'd let you handle it. Tell us about your books, because I'm not familiar with your books yet.
Okay, well, I have one book already published. It's called The Citizen Kane Crash Course in Cinematography. And it's on Amazon, www.amazon.com, under my name. The Citizen Kane Crash Course in Cinematography was published in 2008. And when I got into teaching, when I started teaching, the gentleman who brought me into teaching said, in order to be a recognized teacher, you should really publish something. And I said, fine, I'll publish something. And he introduced me to his publisher, and I wanted to do a book about directing. And they said, no, because you've done 2 Clint Eastwood movies, we want you to do a book on cinematography. So I asked them to send me all of the top 5 books on cinematography, let me know what they were, and I looked at them all, and basically they all put me to sleep. They were very technical about the chemistry involved and the inverse square law and the shoulder of the density curve and all this stuff, and I was like, that's not interesting to me. I approach it more from an artistic standpoint, not from a technical standpoint. So in doing my research, I came by about an article that Orson Welles had mentioned to his entourage at some point. I learned everything about the art of cinematography from the great cameraman Greg Toland in half an hour. And I thought, my, imagine being able, in our day of instant gratification, to want to learn everything about the art of cinematography in half an hour. And then I realized that he was exaggerating, being Orson Welles. He was exaggerating. It wasn't half an hour, but it might have been a weekend. And this was my starting point for the book. And then I fantasized that, knowing Mr. Welles' taste for women, and for gambling, and for food, and for booze, and for drugs, that it might have been a very wild weekend. And so I did a highly fictional version of what I thought Orson Welles and Greg Toland's meeting was like in the 1940s, and how Mr. Toland tagged around after Mr. Welles over a wild weekend while he indulged in all of these various vices that he liked to indulge in, and was still learning about the ABCs of directing and filmmaking and cinematography, because Mr. Toland and Mr. Welles, anytime there would be a technical question, they would go off the set, so the cast and crew wouldn't know that Mr. Welles didn't know that much about filmmaking. And Mr. Toland would bring him up to speed, then he would go out and be Orson Welles and direct the movie. So that was the basis for my book called The Citizen Kane Crash Course in Cinematography. If anyone is interested, it's at Amazon.com. And if they get a copy and they would like me to sign it for them, they can reach me at my email, which is davidworthfilm@gmail.com, and I'll send them the address, and they can send it to me. And just like I was going to sign your copies of Bloodsport and Kickboxer, I'd be happy to sign the Bloodsport. I have a second one that I'm working on that I've only published on campus at UCLA. To use a class there called Milestones in Cinema, 50 visionary films and filmmakers, that traces the 50 most outside-the-box thinking films and directors of the last 100 years. All the way back from D.W. Griffith through the Italian neorealists and the French New Wave and the American Independence, all the way down to the Blair Witch Project and Paranormal Activity and Avatar and beyond. And that is right. That is actually being looked at by publisher at this point.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you this before I let you go. What do you think of the Child's Play movies?
Excuse me, I had to tell someone not to come in. Go ahead.
My last question before I let you go, David. What do you think of the since we're talking about horror, what do you think of the Child Play films with the Chucky doll?
Well, first of all, I love Chucky. I love Chucky because he represents the great football coach, John Gruden, who's on Monday Night Football. They call him Chucky because he gets that angry Chucky face. So I enjoyed the Chucky films. And there's actually, my favorite line from any movie is in one of the Chucky films, but I I probably shouldn't say it because it's an X-rated line. I probably shouldn't say it on your show.
Well, my show's uncensored, David, so.
Well, this is, people think, when people say, what's your favorite line? Well, you know, there's frankly, Scarlet, I don't give a damn. There's I'll be back. There's all these famous lines. Well, I saw a movie, I think it was called Bride of Chucky or something of the Bride of Chucky. Mm-hmm. It was Jennifer Tilly, and she was on the phone, and there was some noise in the background. I never thought I would ever hear this line in a movie, and they said, what's all that noise? And she had a movie in the background called Bound, I think, that she did with Gina Gershon.
Yeah.
And she says on camera, Gina Gershon is fingering me. And I fell out of my chair laughing. I said, there's no way I'm hearing this line in a movie. There's no way that I'm hearing this. This is the most bizarre, far out, in-your-face line I've ever heard. And I've seen all the big movies. I've seen all the, I know the history of films. This one slapped me in the face. And I said, that has to be the most far out. And it was from one of the Chucky movies.
Wow. And I got to tell you something real quick, too, David. Did you know the voice of Chucky, the guy is actually from Huntington, West Virginia?
Did not know that.
I mean, I've not personally met him. I don't know him, but he's actually from Huntington, West Virginia, which would be...
You should look him up and do an interview with him. We all love the Chucky movies.
Oh, absolutely. I just watched the new one the other day, and it was spectacular. So.
Yeah, you can't help but love Chucky. Chucky it's very cute and very entertaining, and you know it's nothing that's going to raise your consciousness, but it's fun. And sometimes, you know what I like to watch on television?
Fun stuff that's fun.
World's wildest police chases. All it is a video camera in the front of a police car.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
But it's so compelling and entertaining because you never know what's going to happen, but you know it's going to end badly.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's going to have a wreck.
Mm-hmm. And one of my final thoughts with you, David, just because I just thought of this and I wanted to share this because I know he'll probably be watching because I'm going to send it on his Facebook page. But one of my friends that's an actor that I reached out to, he's going to try to come meet me, I think this year or next year. His name is Tony Luke Jr. Have you ever heard of Tony Luke Jr.?
Yes, sure.
Have you seen his movie, The Nail?
I haven't, but I've heard of it.
It's a good film, David, and I would love for you to see it sometime. And he's got a television show that's going to be coming on Spike TV in June. It's called Frankenfood. And what's going to be interesting about this show, it's not just going to be like a normal cooking show. It's going to be he's going to have different people come on his show and fix food and that wouldn't normally go together that might taste good. So
that's interesting. I love watching cooking shows too. Because everyone we all love to eat. So I love to eat, and in fact, I'm the kind of person that's when I'm eating breakfast, I'm saying what's for lunch. When I'm eating lunch, I'm asking what's for dinner. Mm-hmm. So I love watching cooking shows. When Emeril Lagasse had his show on live, I used to watch that all the time. I'm a huge fan of Anthony Bourdain's shows when he travels all over the world, meeting people and eating the food and all that. So that's very cool that he's got that show happening.
Yeah, and when it comes out, David, I'll shoot you an email and be like, it's coming on Spike TV such and such date if you want to check it out, you know. And I'm gonna get your final thoughts, and I'll go ahead and let you go, David, because I know you got a full day and a full plate, and I just want you to know that I am very honored that I got to do this today. I mean, it's been a dream come true for me to talk with you today.
Well, it's my honor. I admire you, and you're a hero to me because of all the things you've overcome to bring yourself to this point. You're a fantastic TV host. I enjoy talking with you, and I'm happy to do it anytime. This doesn't have to be the only time we do this. anytime, I can be available to chat with you, Justin. Just don't hesitate to call.
Oh, absolutely, and I know that you're a busy person, but when it's your birthday, David, be expecting a call from me saying happy birthday, David. You know.
Thank you. I thank you very much. At my age, I don't like to even remember them anymore, but that's okay. There's no getting away from it. It creeps up on all of us.
That's the truth, because and my final statement, David, is you need to really enjoy life, because life is short. Because I lost my brother here recently, and he was only 28 years old. So
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry to hear that.
So yeah, I tell people, live life like today is your last day.
That's right. Because you never know when it might be. And I like to always mention to people when people are maybe they're engaging in smoking or drinking or something I don't agree with, and I say to myself, nobody gets out of this life alive. You can live the healthiest life, you can exercise every day, and run out the street and get hit by a car. So nobody gets out of this life alive. Live it, enjoy it, do what you need to do, be kind to people, have a good time.
Absolutely, because I'm always good to people, and I try to be, and I always tell people the reason I'm in this wheelchair, in this situation, as much as a lot of times I do hate it, David, because I would have been a wonderful fighter, in the ring physically, but the reason that I'm in this situation, I believe, is to speak for those that cannot speak for themselves, that's in this chair, that's in a worse situation than I'm in. I believe that's why I want
that's right.
This life.
That's a wonderful attitude. That's my attitude. It's no matter how bad things get, all you have to do is look to your left or your right, and you'll see someone in a worse situation. And you have become a fighter for all those people who can't speak and can't do what you do, to show them what can be done when people tell you it can't be done.
Oh, absolutely, because if I would tell somebody like let's say a year ago, that I would be talking to you today, they'd be like, "You're crazy," So.
I'm easy to find, Justin. Anyone can talk to me. I don't have an entourage. I don't keep myself away from people. Anyone can find me on the internet or at my website, www.davidworthfilm.com, or at my Gmail address. Or anyone can call me and contact me, and I'm happy to chat with them about. Or they can check me out on IMDb. All my films are there, and I'm happy to chat with them at any time. That's my business now. I'm teaching the next generation. I've been teaching for the last 8 years mostly, and I enjoy passing on what I've learned over the years about filmmaking, and especially the new paradigm of high def that's happening. I'm happy to pass on that information to all the young filmmakers out there, and I want to be astounded by all the work they're going to be doing.
Wow. That's amazing, David. And I'm going to go ahead and let you go, my friend, so you can do your work and do what you need to do. And please give your love to the family for me. So
same, and have a happy Thanksgiving. Best to you and yours. And my email, my cell phone, my Skype, my iChat are always open to you.
Absolutely, David. And I'm gonna close on this note, my friend. When I know more about what's going on with my health, which I'm doing really good today, because I told you that I've been having some health issues. Once I actually know something concrete, I will be emailing you. So.
Thank you. All the best.
Thank you, David.
And I'm just an old hippie from the 1960s. So as we like to always say, peace and love.
Peace and love. Absolutely, because sometimes I think I was born in the wrong time, David, because I could easily be a hippie. I mean,
Peace and love, my friend. Peace and love. You're a person who exudes that.
Thank you, my friend, and I will go ahead and let you go, David. So.
Take care. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. And ladies and gentlemen, that was David Worth. I want to thank you for watching this video, and sorry about the picture, because I know the picture was getting a little fuzzy, and I will see you guys again next time. Take care. This has been a special report video with David Worth, the director of Kickboxer. Take care, ladies and gentlemen.